Welcome back to Empires of Europe. This is Fat Rod. Today I've got the 1.2.10 update for 1700. So this is now live on Steam and Nexus. Now this update is primarily about the new troop trees, which is now turned into a full overhaul of everything. But I've also managed to squeeze in a couple of other important updates, which we will go through now. So with that, let's get into it. So the first update is to announce that BannerColorPersistence is now integrated into the core mod, which means you no longer need to download it separately and you don't need to configure anything. It will just work out of the box and everyone will have these fantastic looking banners that I painstakingly recreated. Everyone will have that out of the box and you don't need to do anything. This has been a particular bugbear for me because people always seem to download the wrong version and their game crashes as a result. Also see a lot of popular YouTubers streaming the game and they don't have it set up correctly, which absolutely kills me. But we don't have to worry about that anymore. And the author of the mod, Quankank, very big thank you to him for allowing me to do this, to integrate it into the mod, integrate it directly, so that no one needs to configure that anymore. So yeah, that's a really big one for me. Very happy about that. So the next update to talk about is the addition of firearms in tournaments. I actually did this last update, but I forgot to put it in the video, so we'll talk about it now. But basically, I've put pistols, muskets, and sabers as the weapons in tournaments now. It does change up the gameplay quite a bit because you only get one of those weapons. So some people have firearms and some people have swords, but they don't have both. So, you know, it makes it pretty essential to actually pick up weapons off the ground sometimes. I think this makes it both easier and harder. Sometimes you get randomly shot right at the start, like that. But also, of course, the firearms can be a lot easier to use and to get a kill. So, you know, I think it makes it a bit more interesting, a bit more fun in that regard. I haven't changed the scenes yet. You can see they're still the old ones. I do know how to do this, but it's not very high up my priority list. It's not really, it doesn't really change the gameplay anyway, so I'm probably not going to look to do that anytime soon. But as it is, I think, you know, it's still a lot more fun to have the firearms in the tournament. So moving on to our settlement updates, and the first of these is the addition of Cluj-Napoca in Romania. I believe this was the unofficial capital of Transylvania. I showed this to my 11-year-old son and he said, "Wait a minute, Transylvania is a real place?" I said, "Yes, but I don't believe they have vampires anymore." So kids always make that connection. So I've added in Cluj, and it has a single bound settlement of Sibiu, which I've made a wheat farm just to make sure this settlement doesn't starve. But yeah, that kind of fills out this area in Romania that was really a bit blank. I've also given this to the Habsburg clan. The settlement changed hands in 1699 as part of a treaty with the Ottomans, so it had only just changed hands, and the Romanians were excluded from the negotiations. So it kind of makes sense to me that it would, will make it crown lands of the Austrians immediately after that period. The other settlement change I've made is to Budapest. So a few people had made this request, pointing out that it was in fact two settlements at the time, one on either side of the river. So what I've done is I've got a bit creative with the prefabs. These are still settlements, are still villages. They're not towns, but it is one town on either side of the river. I've done it this way to kind of make it look like it is actually, two towns that could eventually become one, if you like. So Buda was the existing settlement in the game. Pest is a new one that I've added, which you can see is bound to Cluj-Napoca Castle above it. So Maybe I'll revisit this in the future, but I wanted to make it 2 separate villages, just so I didn't add a new town so close to Zagreb or the castle there. So the next update to talk about is the new music. So I've added in custom music for each of the battle scenes as well as the campaign map. So we'll listen to a couple of these now. This is the large battle variant. You can hear it's this kind of fife and drums marching band. Good music for a slaughter. So the music will change depending on the size of the battle, and then it randomizes a bit as well. I'll show you a small battle now. So this is obviously a tournament, but it happens on small battles as well. So another one of these fife and drum scores. I think this one's my favourite. This is all authentic music from the period as well. So then the last one is the campaign map. For campaign map, I've gone for something different. This is more your kind of dark and ominous background music, but I think it helps kind of set the tone and creates a new level of immersion. So yeah, that's the new music. Okay, so moving on to the big one now, the troop overhaul. So I'll just open up the British tree here to give you an idea of how much larger it is. I've combined both the elites and the basic troops into a single tree. So that means the basic unit can actually upgrade to anything in the tree, which I think is cool. So what I'll do here, I'll actually open up the whole thing here. We'll look at the Nordic tree and I'll talk you through how this works. So starting off with our militia, our basic unit, they can then go into either regulars or irregulars. Irregulars are like your skirmishers, light infantry, and they upgrade into either a long-range rifle unit or a light infantry cavalry. A light cavalry unit. The reason you would go down this line is because the rifleman has the Jaeger rifle. So they are a quicker way to get to a long-range unit. By comparison, if we look at the regular tree, so these are your kind of core infantry, core units, they have an additional unit. They go through the guard, the foot guard, and then the elite guard unit. The elite guard unit has the same rifle, but they have a higher tier of skills. So they are actually the top ranged foot unit in the game. And you'll notice as well from the guard level or from the foot guard level, they can also then break off into the cavalry line. So from the regular, we've also got the engineers. The engineers are kind of more placeholders at the moment. Eventually, they will be the field artillery units. But what I've done with them for now is I've made them infantry and given them an infantry skill set. So they're not great in the field, but they do still have pistols. And what they do is they spawn as the town militia and the castle militia. So you'll see them defending towns and castles mostly, but you don't really want them in the field. And then over on the far right, from our guard level, we can also then branch off into our specialists. So this is where we have our pikemen, our shock trooper, and our grenadier. So this is actually kind of nerfed grenadiers in a big way, because if you look at this, a single militia unit only has a 1 in 7 chance of ending up as a grenadier. So what this has done is you very rarely see them now. I actually nerfed their skills as well. I nerfed the throwing skill from 80 down to 10. I don't even know how much of an impact that's made because I'm barely seeing any of them on the battlefield. So I might have overdone that a bit, but I'll let it play out for a little while and we'll see how it goes. So I'll talk you through now how these guys spawn. So the Continental Militia is your village and town recruit, whereas the Hussar is still the start of the elite or the castle recruit units. The militia are also the ranged militia within a town or castle. The engineers are the melee militia, and the second tier there, the gunner, is the elite melee. And then our regulars will be our elite ranged units. So each of those militia units will now spawn in town and castles as the militias, but they will still upgrade. So eventually, if an army's been around for a long time, an AI army's been around for a long time, you're going to be seeing the high tier units here. You'll see a mix of riflemen, the marshals, gunners, artillery officers, foot guards, and a couple of the specialist units. What I'm finding is this actually ends up being a much better mix of the AI armies. There's a little bit more cavalry, there's a lot less grenadiers, and there's a lot more ranged gunpowder units. So it makes for a pretty good mix. So that's the standard layout for most of the Western Europe trees, but I'll show you a couple of the variations. So the Portuguese still have a mounted grenadier, which we can see over in their specialist line. So they're a bit of a unique unit. Should be make for some interesting gameplay. The German tree, they have a faster melee only light infantry, the Uhlans. So these guys don't have a carbine, so only good for charging infantry. Take a look at the Ottoman tree now. So they still have one or two melee units, as do the Safavids as well. Oh, not melee, I should say. They have martial units. So we've still got a bow unit here, the Solax. What I've done is given them the top bow and top arrows. So if they get in range, they will still be dangerous. The Ottomans, of course, also still have their Arbus gunner, but similar to the Grenadiers, they won't spawn anywhere near as often. Finally, we take a look at the Safavids. So they have a lot more non-gunpowder units historically. So similar thing, I've given them really high tier weapons. If you run into these guys, I had one battle where their cavalry managed to distract me long enough that their martial infantry got close and they actually ended up beating me. So they can still be dangerous. They also have a pretty unique unit here with the Zamburak, which is a mounted camel artillery. So they've got the Arbus gun on a camel. So that'll be pretty interesting. Similar to the Turks as well, if I can find it here, it's the Kizilbash Turkmen. So the Safavid cavalry is all melee and bows, no gunpowder. But they are, as you can see, they're very heavily armoured, fast, strong horses. So, yeah, they will be pretty deadly in a cavalry charge. Last one now, the Moroccan tree, a little bit different again. Theirs is smaller, but that's because they also have the Blackguard units as well, which we've seen previously. Didn't make sense to merge these into a single tree, given they're a completely different ethnicity. But yeah, for the Moroccans, the Blackguard are the militia, essentially. So that's it for our troop tree update. Obviously, some pretty big changes there, a lot of new units. And like I said, the way they spawn has a really big impact on the makeup of armies and what you're going to see in your battles. So that's it for this update. Obviously, quite a few big things there, a couple of quality of life changes, and the troop tree update's going to change the gameplay up quite a lot. This will probably be the last update to 1700 for a little while now. It's time I switch focus back to 1100 and start to bring across some of these updates. In particular, banner color persistence, the new settlements, custom music, and I am going to start looking into the Banner Kings integration as well. So as usual, leave your comments, leave your feedback in the comments, leave your comments in the feedback, and on Discord as well. So yeah, that's it. We'll see you next time.